The first rays of sunlight, they creep over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and rose. The river Tagus, a shimmering ribbon of silver, reflects the nascent day, a cascade of terracotta rooftops and pastel-colored buildings, climbing towards the cerulean sky. We are in Lisbon. This is a city that rises from the banks of the Tagus, perched on 7 hills, with rich history and vibrant culture.
Lisbon is the capital and largest city in Portugal, with an estimated population of close to 3 million people. Lisbon is mainland Europe's westernmost capital city and the only one along the Atlantic coast. The city lies in the western portion of the Iberian Peninsula. We start our exploration from the city center, Bairro. Bairro was built after the Lisbon earthquake. In 1755, the city experienced a devastating earthquake, followed by a tsunami and fires. It destroyed 85% of the city's structures. After the earthquake, the city center was rebuilt in accordance with principles of modern urban design. It was reconstructed in an open rectangular plan with 2 great squares, the Praça do Rossio and the Praça do Comércio. No visit to Lisbon would be complete without a stop-off at the majestic Praça do Comércio. The Praça do Comércio means market square, surrounded on 3 sides by classical 18th century buildings and opening up on the south side to the Tagus River estuary. This plaza was once known as the Gateway to Lisbon, in recognition of the time when merchant ships arriving at the port would offload their cargo here. This was also where passenger ships disembarked. The buildings here, with their distinctive lemon paint and beautiful arcades, were designed to be government offices, to regulate commercial activity in the area. Today, these fine buildings are mainly occupied by government offices, company headquarters, museum and restaurants, with outdoor seating, making the square a good place to visit in the evening as the sun sets over the river. The square is dominated by a statue of Joseph I. He is the monarch at the time of the earthquake, astride his magnificent horse Gentil, with serpents underfoot. At the north end of the plaza is the Arch of Rua Augusta. The monumental arch shows the allegorical figure of glory crowning genius and bravery. Below them are important historical figures and allegorical representations of the rivers Tagus and Douro. Praça do Comércio opens onto Rua Augusta through the Triumphal Arch. Rua Augusta means the Street of Augusta. This is a lively pedestrian street with mosaic pavements, outdoor cafes, international shops, coexist with age-old shops. It's also a feast for the eyes, a showcase for fine architecture and buildings. We gaze up at the buildings that line the street, admiring their elegant facades, their wrought iron balconies, and their colorful tile work. Around the corner is the Santa Justa elevator, or Carmo lift. The lift was established here in the year of 1902. It connects the lower streets of the Bairro with the higher Lago do Carmo and Bairro Alto. The elevator is a vertical structure in iron. Since iron was a new building material at the time of its construction, it is symbolic of the technical and memorial construction from this period, representing the culture of the 1900s, when the structure and elevators were considered a major innovation and portent of a modern age. We continue our stroll along the Rua Augusta. The end of the street connects to the Praça Rossio. Rossio means common land. Praça Rossio means common land square. It is a rectangular square bordered by elegant palaces with regular lines. The square is lined with restaurants, cafes and shops. Rossio Square is the beating heart of the city. It's the bustling center of the downtown Lisbon. Several parts of the city converge here, and the square is a popular meeting place of locals and tourists. Here people gather to socialize at cafes around the square's edge or chat on the benches on the square. The pedestrianized center of the square is paved with a black and white wavy pattern. This stunning tiled floor lets us feel like walking on an ocean that goes beyond the horizon. It is adorned with a tall monument and 2 fountains. A tall column with a statue of Dom Pedro IV graces the center of the square. He was the King of Portugal and the first Emperor of Brazil. At the foot of the column are allegorical statues representing justice, courage, restraint, and wisdom. Two monumental Baroque fountains were installed on either side of the central monument, depict mythical figures. The fountains are especially beautiful at night when they are illuminated. Near Rossio Square, we stop at a bar and order a Portuguese drink, which is ginginha. It is a Portuguese liquor made from sour cherries. Ginginha is dark red in color and is served in small shot glasses. It is a famous local drink, a must-try food in Lisbon. It is a wonderful taste of Portugal. It will give a good memory. Ginginha is a heavenly sweet cherry liquor. We continue our stroll on the Rossio Square. A prominent building bordering the north of Rossio Square is the Teatro Nacional Dona Maria II. This is a national theatre. The building's exterior is defined by its monumental neoclassical portico. 6 massive Ionic columns support the pediment, which is decorated with sculptures depicting Apollo and his muses. Atop the pediment is a statue of Gil Vicente, a 15th century playwright who is considered the founder of Portuguese theatre. Look to the northwestern corner of the square and we notice a magnificent facade in neo-Manueline style, typified by elaborately sculpted motifs with the horseshoe-shaped entrances. This is the entrance to the Rossio station, a beautiful 3-floors building. It was built in 1887 as Lisbon's central railway station, and today, trains for Sintra depart here. We continue our stroll towards north. Very soon we arrive at the Praça dos Restauradores. It means Restorer Square. The square is dedicated to the restoration of the independence of Portugal from Spain in 1640 after 60 years of Spanish in the domination in the 17th century. In the center is a patterned pavement, surrounding a 30-meter high obelisk with 2 bronze figures on the pedestal depicting victory and freedom. Look to the northwestern area. There is a quaint elevator. This is Elevator de Gloria. It means the elevator of the glory. It is a yellow funicular tram that climbed the steep hill into the Bairro Alto district. Far from being a tourist attraction, the steep tram ride is an essential form of transport for many local residents on their downtown shopping trips. The square are surrounded by the fine buildings with shops, cafe, hotels. We go to a cafe, order a traditional Portuguese pastel de nata and the Portuguese coffee, find a seat overlooking the square. Portugal is famed the world over for the pastel de nata. It is a crisp, flaky layers of pastry with a delicious creamy egg custard filling and a dusting of cinnamon. Pastel de nata is considered to be one of the 50 best things to eat in the world. We enjoy the pastel de nata and Portuguese coffee. Watch the world go by. During the 19th century, the liberal movement introduced new changes into the urban landscape. The principal areas of the city center proliferated. The development of industry and commerce determined the growth of the city. As the city grew further from the Tagus River, Baixo as the city center grew towards north and began to link into the Avenida da Liberdade. It means Avenue of Freedom. The Restorers Square is the beginning point of the Avenue of Freedom. The Avenue of Freedom is an elegant boulevard. It runs south-north from the Restorers Square to the square of Pombal. The avenue is lined with banks, company headquarters, embassies, luxury stores, public buildings, and hotels. The Avenue of Freedom is 90 meters wide and 1 kilometer long. Along the avenue, we find wide sidewalks. The Portuguese sidewalk is really attractive. A particularly beautiful sidewalk, ornamented with abstract designs. We also find gardens, lakes, tall trees, statues, monuments, funiculars, stores, cafes, restaurants, theaters, cinemas, and much, much more. In the theaters on the boulevard, you can enjoy the very popular, up-to-date and famous shows and plays. The Avenue of Freedom is the busiest, most cosmopolitan and most expensive avenue in the Portuguese capital. We stroll northwards and arrive the square of Marquis Pombal. The square of Marquis Pombal is a roundabout. Several roads and streets converge here. It is the most central point of the capital now. The square of Marquis Pombal is located between the Avenue of Freedom and the Park of Edward VII, and in the center of the square stands an imposing statue of the Marquis Pombal. He was governor of Lisbon between the years 1750 and 1777. After the catastrophic Lisbon earthquake, Marquis Pombal was outlining the ideas for reconstruction with the other architects. Northwards of the square of Marquis Pombal is the Park of Edward VII. The park is named for King Edward VII of the United Kingdom, who visited Portugal in 1903 to strengthen relations between the two countries. The park ascends to the hill. The Edward VII Park extends over 25 hectares. The park's central strip, covered with grass, is flanked by long Portuguese paved walkways dividing the park into two green tree-lined zones. The northern end of the park is a viewpoint with monuments. One of the monuments is honoring the Carnation Revolution. The Carnation Revolution, also known as the 25th of April, was a military coup by military officers that overthrew the authoritarian government. On the 25th of April 1974 in Lisbon, the Carnation Revolution was producing major social, economic, territorial, demographic, and political changes in Portugal and its overseas colonies. The park is a gorgeous place and perfect for walk on the monumental viewpoint, where you can overlook the beautiful and magnificent view of the city. The views spread out all the way and far away to the Tagus River. After exploring the city center, we turn to explore the Belém district. The Belém district is located on the western part of the city. Firstly, we visit the Jerónimos Monastery. Jerónimos Monastery was built in 16th century on the bank of River Tagus. It was built under the reign of King Manuel I and funded by the monarch of Portugal. It is an architectural masterpiece that has been admired for centuries. The Jerónimos Monastery is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is named after Saint Jerome. He was a Christian priest, theologian and historian. The Vulgate is a Latin version of the Bible, and largely the result of the labors of Saint Jerome, who was commissioned by Pope Damasus I in 382 AD to make a revision of the Old Latin translation. Saint Jerome was one of the most learned scholars of the early Christian Church. The name Jerónimo is the Spanish form of Jerome. The monastery was built in the Portuguese Gothic Manueline architectural style, which is Portuguese late Gothic style. It took more than 100 years to complete the construction. Its purpose was to assist seafarers who passed the area, serving as a place of prayer and reflection for sailors embarking on perilous voyages to distant lands. It stands as a testament to Portugal's age of discovery. It showcased the accumulating of the wealth and power of Portugal's golden age. We marvel at the monastery's stunning facade adorned with intricate motifs, including maritime symbols, exotic animals, and intricate filigree. The religious building was also built to commemorate the return of Vasco da Gama from India. Inside the monastery, the Church of Santa Maria is a unique place. The church has a single nave that is held up by 6 beautifully sculpted columns. The grandeur of the church, with its soaring arches and ornate altars, it seems to go on forever. It's so beautiful and fascinating. The church houses the tombs of Vasco da Gama, who is the exploration pioneer, and Luís de Camões, Fernando Pessoa. Both of them are the renowned Portuguese poet and writer. It also houses the tombs of King and Queen of Portugal. Further inside the monastery, we arrived the Jerónimos Monastery's 2-story cloister is so beautiful. It is large, with decorative ornamentation. It showcased the exquisite craftsmanship, with elaborately carved columns and vaulted ceilings adorned with delicate stonework. The symbolism are breathtaking. The Jerónimos Monastery is a graceful majesty. a masterpiece of the Manueline architecture. We leave the monastery with sweet memory, then we visit the nearby Belém Tower. Literally, Belém means Bethlehem in English. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, nested on the northern bank of the river Tagus, protruding over the river. The Belém Tower is one of the city's finest historical monuments. The construction of Belém Tower began in 1514. It was designed as part of a defensive system at the mouth of the river Tagus, served the purpose of being a fort that protected Lisbon from incoming raids along the Tagus River. It is approximately 35 meters high, with 5 levels. The rampart is divided into 2 parts, the bastion and the tower. The bastion shapes like an irregular hexagon. The tower stands on the north part of the bastion, which is close to the shore. The fortress tower and terrace on the top of the tower offering a view of the surrounding landscape. The watchtowers features images of wild animals, including a rhinoceros, which is considered the first sculpture of this animal in Western European art. The whole tower is designed with twisted cords carved in stone and forms a knot on the north facade of the building. Battlements are decorated with rich sculptural ornamentation, typical motifs, elaborate warheads, delicate decorations of the arched windows and balconies, as well as the fluted cupolas of the watchtowers and ornately decorated turrets. The Belém Tower is known to be one of the major works of the Manueline architecture. It is a wonderful mix of sturdy fortifications with intricate details. The medieval military architecture is a beautiful example of modern Renaissance architecture. The Belém Tower is a marvelous architectural achievement. The Belém Tower also marked the beginning of voyages for sailors. The Belém Tower served as a point of embarkation and disembarkation for Portuguese explorers and was a ceremonial gateway to Lisbon. In the Age of Discovery, most of the Portuguese expeditions set out from Lisbon. During the period from the end of the 15th century to the beginning of the 17th century, including Vasco da Gama's expedition to India in 1498. The following years of the 16th century began Lisbon's golden era. The city was the European hub of commerce between Africa, India, the Far East, and later Brazil, and acquired great riches by exploiting the trade in spices, slaves, sugar, textiles, and other goods. Belém Tower is a symbol of Europe's Age of Discovery. At the Belém district we also find the Discovery Monument. This huge stone caravel was built in 1940 to commemorate the Prince Henry the Navigator and to identify the main navigators such as Bartholomew Dias, who turned the Cape of Torments into the Cape of Good Hope, Vasco da Gama, who discovered the maritime route to India, Pedro Álvares Cabral, who discovered Brazil, and Magellan, the first European to cross the southern Pacific and circumnavigate the Earth.
Let's leave the grandeur of Belém behind. We'll hop on a tram, one of those charming yellow relics that snake through the city. We're heading for Alfama, the oldest district in Lisbon, a place where time seems to flow a little differently. As we ascend the steep winding streets, the air grows quiet. Alfama is a labyrinth, a maze of narrow streets and hidden courtyards where it's easy to lose yourself, both literally and figuratively. But that's part of its charm. There's a sense of discovery around every corner, a feeling that you've stumbled upon a secret that's been hidden away for centuries. We wander aimlessly, our senses on high alert. The walls are a tapestry of textures and colors. Faded pastel paint, intricate tile work, crumbling plaster revealing glimpses of ancient stone. Vines, heavy with purple bougainvillea blossoms, cascade over balconies, their fragrance mingling with the scent of freshly baked bread from a nearby bakery.
Guardians of the city, above the labyrinthine streets of Alfama, perched atop the highest hill, stands the majestic Castelo de São Jorge, a fortress that has stood the test of time. Its ancient ramparts, weathered by centuries of sun and wind, offer breathtaking panoramic views of the sprawling city below, a sight that leaves visitors in awe. We climb the steep, winding path to the castle, our legs burning with the effort, each step taking us closer to history. But you know, the view from the top is worth every drop of sweat, a reward for our perseverance. Lisbon stretches out before us, a sea of terracotta rooftops cascading down to the shimmering Tagus River, painting a picturesque scene. The Castelo de São Jorge, known in English as St. George's Castle, is a historic castle in Lisbon. Human occupation of the castle hill dates to at least the 8th century BC, while the oldest fortifications on the site date from the 2nd century BC. The hill on which St. George's Castle stands has played an important part in the history of Lisbon, having served as the location of fortifications occupied successively by Phoenicians, Romans and Moors before its conquest by the Portuguese in the 1147. At the top of the hill, we also find the Lisbon Cathedral Church, the Church and Monastery of St. Vincent. Outside the walls, and the National Pantheon. The Lisbon Cathedral Church was built in the 1147. The cathedral has survived many earthquakes and has been modified, renovated and restored several times, resulting in a mix of different architectural styles. It is the oldest church in Lisbon. The National Pantheon was built in the 16th century. It is a grand Baroque building housing the tombs of the country's most distinguished figures. Both of them are not far away from the castle. At the top of the hill, we come to a viewpoint which is Largo das Portas do Sol. It means the doors to the sun in English. This is the best spot to catch a sunrise or to sit in one of the kiosks and take in the panoramic view any time of the day. We can see everything from here. The imposing 25 of April suspension bridge, a marvel of engineering, the gleaming white dome of the National Pantheon, standing proudly under the sun, and the bustling waterfront of the Cais do Sodré district, alive with activity and energy. The Castelo de São Jorge has witnessed centuries of history, standing as a silent guardian over the city, a testament to Lisbon's enduring spirit. Echoes of Fado. Lisbon is one of the oldest cities in the world, and the second oldest European capital city after Athens of Greece. Settled by pre-Celtic tribes and later founded and civilized by the Phoenicians, the influence of Roman Empire began with the arrival of the Roman army in the Iberian Peninsula in 218 BC. Lisbon is called Olepiso under the Roman Empire. It was captured by the Islamic North African Moors in the 8th century. In 1147, Afonso Henriques conquered the city, and in 1255, it became Portugal's capital, replacing Coimbra. It has since been the political, economic and cultural center of the country. As dusk descends, a hush falls over Alfama. The air grows cooler and the scent of jasmine and wood smoke fills the narrow streets. This is the time when Alfama truly comes alive, when the mournful melodies of Fado, Portugal's soulful folk music, echo through its ancient alleyways. We duck into a small, dimly lit tavern, its walls adorned with faded photographs of Fado singers from a bygone era. A lone guitarist sits on a small stage, his fingers caressing the strings of his Portuguese guitar. Fado translate into English means fate. The mourning tune originated the sorrow felt due to the separation of the dangerous sea voyages around the globe. Fado has its historical roots within the district of Alfama, and this historically hard and deprived district was where the families of the sailors lived. The Museum of Fado is another attraction for us at Alfama, where we understand more about the history of Fado. As the night deepens, we reluctantly tear ourselves away from the Fado Tavern. The streets of Alfama are still alive with activity. Families gather for dinner, their conversation spilling out onto the cobblestones. Couples stroll hand in hand, their laughter echoing through the narrow alleyways. We leave the winding alleys of Alfama behind. Our journey takes us to Bairro, Alto and Chiado district. This is another old town district, lies on the western part of the city, next to Baixa. At days, Bairro, Alto and Chiado is a bohemian heart where creativity flourishes on every corner. At night it becomes the heart of the nightlife of Lisbon. It is a district full of history. It is loved by young people, elders, hipsters, gay community, party guys and all kind of people. We can feel that Lisbon is a city of contrasts, a place where history has left its mark, in both destruction and renewal. No exploration of Bairro, Alto and Chiado would be complete without indulging in its culinary delights. This district is home to a wide variety of restaurants, cafes and pastry shops, offering everything from traditional Portuguese fare to international cuisine. For a taste of old Lisbon, we duck into one of the many Cascais tucked away on side streets. The small, family-run restaurants serve up hearty, home-style Portuguese dishes at reasonable prices. We order plates of grilled sardines, bacalhau à brás, salted cod with scrambled eggs and potatoes, and carne de porco à alentejana, food of Portugal, and wash it all down with a jug of vinho verde, the local green wine.
We find ourselves drawn to one of Bairro Alto's miraduros, those magical viewpoints that offer breathtaking panoramas of the city below, its terraced gardens offering a stunning vista of Lisbon's illuminated skyline. As the night wears on, the energy in Bairro Alto and Chiado only intensifies. The streets are packed with people from all walks of life, locals and tourists, young and old, artists and businessmen, all drawn together by the promise of a good time. We move from bar to bar, each one offering its own unique atmosphere and musical flavor. In one, a DJ spins a mix of electronic beats, the crowd dancing with abandon. In another, a group of friends gathers around a table, their voices raised in animated conversation, their laughter echoing through the narrow space.
The trams and tiled facades of old Lisbon fade into the background. Our journey now takes us to the place over the 25th of April Bridge, a rust-red behemoth that echoes San Francisco's Golden Gate. The other side of the 25th April Bridge is Lisbon Almada. Here, the sanctuary of the Christ King Catholic is located at the top the hill at Almada. And the statue of Christ is standing here overlooking the city harbor. It has a great panoramic location. After visiting the Almada, we visit the westernmost part of the city. Lisbon's beauty isn't confined to its hills and architecture. Lisbon Cascais is another attraction known for its beautiful beaches, historic architecture, vibrant cultural scene, and stunning natural landscapes. Lisbon Cascais is a great destination for a beach holiday, with several beautiful beaches such as Beach of Guincho, Beach of Reinha, and Beach of Conceição. Cascais is nestled along the stunning coastline of Lisbon. Cascais also has many luxurious hotels, resorts and golf courses. Cascais is a premier destination for the elite. The town's picturesque beaches, world-class hotels, restaurants draw visitors from around the globe. It is a legacy of beauty and inspiration. We return to Lisbon city center. We find Lisbon is a great place. They are places of reflection, of contemplation, of connection. Locals and tourists alike gather here to watch the sunset over the Tagus, to share a bottle of wine with friends, or simply to escape the hustle and bustle of city life for a few precious moments. Lisbon, with its vibrant energy, holds us captive. But just beyond its borders, a different world beckons, a short train journey. The landscape transforms. We are entering the magical realm of Sintra. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Sintra is located in some 28 kilometers northwest of Lisbon, stands on the top of a hill in the Sintra Mountains, is the Pena Palace. The palace was built on the site of an old monastery in 12th century. A monastery and a chapel dedicated to Our Lady of Peña was built here. It was the 1755 Lisbon earthquake. It severely damaged the monastery, reducing it to ruins. It was the fruit of the imagination of Dom Fernando of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, who married the Queen Dona Maria II in year of 1836. Ferdinand II was one of the most cultured men of 19th century Portugal, also known as the king artist in Portugal. As a prince in this noble household, in his childhood, the then Duke of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha received a thorough education in which the arts, especially music and drawing. Shortly after his arrival in Portugal, falling for Sintra, he decided to buy the convent and the surrounding land to build a summer palace for the royal family. The building is circled by other architectural structures that appeal to the medieval imaginary, such as the parapet paths, the lookout towers, an access tunnel, and even its own drawbridge. The interior of the palace is still decorated according to the tastes of the kings and queens who lived there. The chapel is great highlight. Another special reference is the painting of the walls with a trompe-l'oeil effect, and the azulejos. The Peña Park is a vast forested area completely surrounding the Peña Palace, spreading for over 200 hectares of uneven terrain, with their 500+ species of trees from the four corners of the world. In the Peña Park, there are romantic forest pathway, hidden trail around giant boulders, lush fern gardens, and spectacular viewpoints. Peña Palace is a fantastic palace. It is one of the best examples of 19th century romantic revivalism in Portugal. The palace incorporates architectural references displaying Manueline and Moorish influences that together produce a surprising scenario recollecting 1001 Nights. At the hilltop of Sintra also locates the Moorish castle. The Moorish castle is a military fortification that bears witness to the Islamic presence in the region, and was constructed in the 8th century. The castle served as a watchtower, guaranteeing the protection of Lisbon and its surroundings. It was acquired and restored by Ferdinand II as a romantic medieval ruin. The castle has an irregular plan and is composed of a double belt of walls. The internal wall presents a bailey, battlements, and the reinforcement provided by 5 fortified towers. Inside, the cistern, fed by rainwater, at central Sintra locates the Sintra National Palace. This is the sole surviving medieval royal palace in Portugal, and the residence of the Portuguese royal family until 1910. The National Palace of Sintra can trace its origin back to the beginning of the Muslim period in the Iberian Peninsula in the 8th century. It was the residence of the Islamic Moorish rulers of the region. In the 12th century, the village was conquered by King Afonso Henriques, who took the Sintra Palace Castle for his use, beginning with the nation's first dynasties. Sintra was one of the preferred places of Portuguese kings and queens, although the palace that we can see nowadays owes its existence to an initiative of Dom João I, who rebuilt it, and Dom Manuel I, who enriched the building's decorative character and added a new wing. The palace's outward profile has become famous for its 2 monumental cone-shaped chimneys. Inside of the interior of the palace, the decoration is quite remarkable, being a combination of various artistic styles that depended on the respective tastes of the kings that lived here. By the end of the 18th century, Sintra's exotic and mysterious ruins and nature became renowned. As a consequence of its fame, it became popular for Portuguese upper class to construct villas in the area, making Sintra something of a village of chateaux. The Monserrate Palace, the Queluz Palace, the Villa Sassetti, and so far and so on. Today Sintra, with the marvelous historic mansions, opulent buildings and vast gardens full of amusements, all set against the backdrop of lush hills. They are so beautiful. Not far away from Sintra, the Cabo de Roca is another attraction. Cabo de Roca means the Cape of Roca. It is located at the westernmost point of mainland Europe. At this westerly point, it was believed up until 14th century that the land ends here where the sea begins. A sweet farewell to Sintra. As evening descends, casting long shadows across the Sintra mountains, we make our way back to the train station. We're leaving the realm of fairy tales and mysteries, but the memories of this magical place will stay with us long after we've returned to the familiar rhythms of city life.
Lisbon's enduring embrace. The sun dips below the horizon. The sky blazes with hues of orange, pink, and purple, reflected in the shimmering waters of the Tagus. Our journey through Lisbon is coming to an end, but the city, like the fading light, lingers in our memory. A city that stays with you. Lisbon isn't just a destination, it's a feeling, an emotion, a state of mind. It's the warmth of the sun on your skin as you wander through its streets. It's the taste of salt on your lips as you gaze out at the Atlantic Ocean. It's the sound of Fado music tugging at your heartstrings. Lisbon is waiting for you. Come to experience this magnificent and fascinating city.